So we've been talking about a few different things and stuff, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but I think one of the things that you mentioned was, can you tell us about your top strategies for coping with the stresses of work and your family, balancing those two, and then anything else that you would like to add?
Yay, I mean, like my daughter, she's going on 14 years old now, and so we always have different phases of relationships, different ages, right? So my family might have just gone through different phases, so when she was first born, it was very hard to get into the rhythm, but now that she's a little bit older and able to communicate better, it's a little bit easier to tell her like, hey, like I have a podcast that I'm recording today, or, I need to work on this, so we'll figure something out. So it's kind of easier in that aspect to explain it to her now, but it is still a little bit hard, because she, like I'll say I'm gonna record an episode today and she'll just, can I help, and I'll tell her, I'm sorry, you can't be in this episode, so it's just kind of, she was my co-host on the intro for a while, which was great, but...
Well, that's really great.
Yay. So, I mean, being home with her, I get to be here to work with her every single day, which is amazing.
Well, and that's kind of a situation you've taken advantage of, if you will.
Absolutely.
You are not allowed to do that.
Yay. So, and I know like my limits, like, I can't. My 1-year-old is teething right now, and I can't just go grab a cup of coffee in the morning and get up and go to work, so I've been home.
Right, sure.
So that's a nice thing, but I think we need to recognize that it is hard to get work done with kids home. It is hard to work and parent at the same time, and I know that there are some moms who do it well, like especially people who are stay-at-home moms, and I have the utmost respect for them, because I don't know how they do it. I've tried to be a stay-at-home mom for a week, and I want to pull my hair out. I really do. I can't do it. It's so hard. So for moms who are staying home with their kids, like I have all the respect for you, because you guys are awesome. I cannot do it. But for the rest of us who are working from home, and we're also expected to parent our children and be, and be a teacher and a mom and a partner and a friend and a daughter, all the things, it's a lot. It's a lot of things. And I don't know about you, but the anxiety of not being able to provide financially or even like having, things to do, it makes me want to do a panic. But I know the only way I'm going to get through it is doing the hard thing.
Yeah.
The social media is what you put into it, you know what I mean. So like for me, as I was sharing earlier with the kids, like I don't have social media, so I'm not scrolling down the feed or, caught up in what everybody's doing. I'm on YouTube, of course, a lot, which I found that's just as bad as social media, if not worse. You can learn so much, but it's, being able to put yourself in the present moment of yourself, to listen to yourself, right, and not having to do what everybody else is doing, which I think is just why, everybody wants to be a YouTube star. But what is being a star, right? I mean, I don't think anybody should be a star unless it's like a shooting star, just to like brighten up the night sky, laughs.
Right.
But as far as being famous, cause I am a part of Team Crazy a little bit, but I'm talking about fame. I'm talking about the definition of fame as where it's hard to walk down the street because of who you are. But I don't want that. I wanna walk down the street just like a regular person.
Me too. Laughs, totally. I just wanna make cool stuff. I wanna learn. I don't care about the fame. Well, and I think that's true of most people. But you can say that about everybody. Like that's why I'm saying that. I think some people that's maybe like some things are more important than like them focusing on how to create the best products or whatever that thing is. And I'm really big on what I do. I'm really big on like if someone loves what they're doing, they're gonna do an amazing job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's what makes the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're seeing the books, and that's why you're seeing so many startups, these indie publishers, self-publishers really pushing it. And even big traditional publishers now are adopting that indie offer mindset and moving that forward.
Right. And I think that it's really important. Like, if you really want to be a writer, then don't worry so much about traditional publication or getting all your books out there and having bestsellers and all of that. Just write the book that you want to write, the book that you love, and get it out there and have other people read it. Because the worst thing that happens is you try to write a book for someone else, right? Like, if I tried to write, well, there is an editor who edits my books, and they always tell me, like, it's great when I'm just writing for myself. I get the best stuff.
I am so thankful you just said that, because I literally just had this conversation today. I'm like, I don't have a budget for a coach right now, but I can't go back to my therapist because she's an hour away from me, so we have to do it virtually. But she told me, like, hey, are you excited about this thing you're working on? And I'm like, honestly, no. I'm not excited about the new diet or the new fitness plan. I want to finish up this book, but I know I don't want to just rush it. I know I don't want to just do it just for the sake of having it be done, because I know I won't be happy with it. So I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do it. And she's like, why don't you take a step back, go back to it in a couple of weeks, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm like, that is brilliant, because sometimes, you want to keep this conversation fresh in people's minds. You don't want it to die down.
Yeah.
You can look at other big events. I mean, we're all in radio here, the build-up is everything, when there's a big, like, all the sporting events and everything. And just because it's in the background, it's in your conversation, it's in the newspapers, it's in everything, and that's what you're talking about all the time. Like a big debate, things like that. But then when it's over, and then you're like, oh, okay, and then you just forget about it. But if you're in that state of mind of thinking about it all the time, then you're gonna, be focusing on it more.
Oh, totally. I'm the same way, by the way. I have like many windows and tabs open at any given time in my mind, right? Like, it's hard to focus on one thing. The most relevant example was when I started my business. I mean, it's hard to make that transition, right? From not having that steady paycheck every month, from the stability, I had a job for, oh my goodness, 25 years at the university. So it's the security of that, the financial security, all of that. And then to go out on my own was a leap of faith. And, I said, I'm gonna start this organization. Speaking of stewardship, I'm gonna start this business, and I have a target goal. I have to reach that, or at some point, my board says, I have to pull the plug. And so I had a plan B. I had a plan B that said, you know what? I'm gonna take a position as a corporate responsibility specialist at the company. And that was like my fallback. If this doesn't work, I'll just do that. But I also knew in my heart of hearts that the moment I accepted that position, I would fail in the business, because you can't have a backup plan. So all of our investments were into it. So, the pandemic is another huge moment in my life where you had to dig deeper, and try and look to see the potential opportunities that we all have as business people.
You have to be proactive about everything that's happening. I think the pandemic for a lot of people was a time of transformation and reflection. 'Cause we were like, what are we doing in the world? What do we wanna do with our lives? What matters to us? And we are seeing a lot of changes, and that's, I guess, where this third step comes in, is the growth piece. And I wanna mention something here that I think is really important. As women, we tend to, and I can't speak to every woman's experience, but there's a lot of us that fall in the trap of thinking that we can't have it all, that we can't have this dream job and be an awesome mom, right? And you definitely can. And when you talk about alignment and you talk about mindset and you talk about all this, you have to start setting boundaries. And that's something I learned during this time, and I'm gonna take forward, as I had so many projects going on, teaching this, doing this, working on my business, and I was getting to the point where it was too much. So then I had to say, okay, let's look at these things. What can I do without? Or what can I maybe just pause for now? I'm not saying cancel forever, but pause. So I have more time to spend with family, or, take care of myself, or, all that kind of stuff. So setting boundaries is really important. And I can tell you, there's a lot of guys out there that could use help in that area. And I think that you were kind of the originator of setting boundaries and making things efficient. But can you talk a little bit more about the role that you've had in helping people get their shit together in terms of creating stuff?
Yeah, I think I have my own mindset issues, right? We're all human and we all have those negative thoughts. And we have negative influences that make us feel less than, But I feel like the biggest thing is to just show up as who you are and not try to be something else. If you love fitness, if you love health and wellness, do that, right? But don't try to be. I think when we try to be something that we're not, that's when we get in trouble. So for me, that's what it comes down to for me. Just making sure I'm authentic in what I'm doing, and I'm being myself. And when I start a podcast, and we started off way too like radio, we were gonna have segments and we were gonna do this and that. And it's you know what, that's not working. Let's just be ourselves and let's have a great time and tell some stories and have some jokes and it will come off better, So I think that's the biggest thing, is you have to be authentic. You have to, and that's where the mindset comes in. If you're not comfortable being who you are, you're not gonna attract the right people around you.
Yay, and to bounce off that, I've learned that with podcasting and with life in general, it's not about waiting for things to get easy. It's about becoming stronger, so that you can do harder and harder things.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what's easy today is gonna be hard tomorrow, and that's why it's really important to get comfortable with uncomfortable things. And that's something that's helped me personally, I know.
Yeah, and I think to your question, the difference between maybe being an influencer or a coach and being an artist or a creator, I think those can be a little bit more of a let's do this for others. But if you're making content, if you're a creator, I think it's more about how can I get across the art that I'm trying to do to the people that I want to see it. And I think you have to make a distinction there, because you could do a lot of work and not have anyone see it. And so the act of creating is somewhat for you. It's therapeutic in a lot of ways, but it's not in the same way as, what else you're trying to provide or put out there. And also in terms of measuring success, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but what is a successful podcast episode? To me, the fact that we've done 20 episodes and people like hearing us talk about our experiences, or not that I'm making it all about me, but in general, the fact that you can have 20 episodes of the show and people still listen to it and continue to download it, that's a success in my eyes. The fact that people will sit there and watch the same episode or listen to the same song on the radio over and over again is a success. You have to create some sort of a voice for yourself to be successful. That's my point, and you're right, there's a balance between being creative and being an artist and also having to do things to be relevant. It's like you have to find the right mix. And we could just sit in our house and write and not do anything, or you could be out there putting stuff on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, right? And that's the choice you make. I think you can do it both ways, and that's the beauty of art, right? And being an artist. And some people don't have to do that. Some people can just write a book and it's the greatest book that anyone's ever read. But for most of us, we have to, we have to market our work and we have to push it. So I think the combination of all those things helps me get over the fear. And I still get it. It's like, what if nobody likes this? But who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't define me as a person. I have to get over myself.
I love it. I love it. We should all remember that.
Yeah. 'Cause it's not just artists. It's writers, and writers deal with it as well.
Absolutely.
I don't know what to do.
Yay, absolutely. Well, the thing that you said, kind of owning who you are, being authentic, that's one thing I think people can relate to. When you just try to do, like we said before, what you think other people want, it just never works.
It's not genuine.
It's not genuine, right? No.
So, and that's one of the things I love about your characters in your books is that, they're very three-dimensional and you really get a sense of their personality. And, you kind of have, humor and emotion in them. And I think it's great. Now, as far as like humor in writing, how do you use humor to cope with things and how does it benefit you personally?
I mean, I use humor to cope with things all the time. I think it's a great way to deal with life. And I feel like my writing is a reflection of that. Life's hard and I don't take myself very seriously. So, I think that's how I deal with it. I make jokes and I write jokes and it just makes me laugh. I like to laugh. I like to see people laugh. And if you can have that comedic edge to some of your writing, it softens it up, it makes it more relatable. I mean, like we've talked about, the musical I'm doing in high school, and I think that was my draw to theater, was the acting of it. And I find, having that presence of being in front of people and making them laugh and making them smile and being able to communicate those emotions, it's very much like writing for me. I like to create characters that have a sense of humor because I think that that's just relatable. Like I don't know, there are people who don't have a sense of humor. I don't know if I want to talk to them.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to relate. We'll just kind of stare at each other, stare at me a little bit like, okay.
Yay, like what? Laughs.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, I think that's actually a good perspective because I've been hearing it a lot. Like I feel like everything is coming to surface now with, people just starting to admit like, hey, I'm really struggling mentally, and it's like that alone and just saying it out loud to somebody. So just say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this, or, maybe if we do that, we can have a little bit more transparency to help each other out. So people can, reach out and get some help or talk to someone about how they're feeling and stuff.
Absolutely.
With everything going on in the world, how are you seeing how has this affected women and their beauty routines? And do you have any tips for people that are dealing with that?
Yay, it's been really interesting. I think at the start, it was really tough. I think a lot of people were quite anxious, and that showed up on the skin for sure. A lot of breakouts and a lot of people, and that was obviously because the stress of everything. And then, in addition to that, I was a lot of mask wearing, and that's caused a lot of friction on people's skin. So it's just really important to do, kind of a real self-assessment of what your skin's doing and, try and address the cause of it, not just the symptoms. 'Cause otherwise you're gonna be just dealing with those same issues again in the future.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on these DIY facials that people are doing at home? 'Cause I think that's also a thing that is going around on social media.
So my thoughts on at-home facials is I think it's great to do some at-home care, but it's very individualized. So what might work for your skin might not work for my skin. And it's great that we have so much access to products now, but I think if you are struggling with the particular issue, seeing a professional is really important. And I say that not just because I'm an esthetician, but I'm a consumer too. I've got my own skin and I've had breakouts and I've had acne and I've had things happen. So I'm not just trying to say, see me because I want to sell something to you. But see a professional that you feel comfortable with and really do your research because you can actually make your skin worse. And I've seen it where people have been using some of these viral trends that I've seen on TikTok or YouTube or wherever else, and they come in and they're saying, my skin is so irritated, it's red, it's painful, it's flaky, it's peeling, and I feel bad for them because they didn't know that that's the problem. So, definitely seeing a professional is really helpful because they can analyze your skin type, they can see, what's going on, and they can help you get on the right path to correcting it.
Absolutely, yeah. That's so important. And I know that, especially since we're in quarantine, a lot of people are trying new things and they're testing out new routines and everything like that. But definitely if you're experiencing anything that's uncomfortable, especially on your skin, like irritation or redness or, breakouts, definitely seek professional help. Do not continue to do something that's causing more problems. I know it's tempting, but it's not worth it. You'll be paying for it later.
And it's not easy to bounce back from those issues, so...
No, not at all.
Yay, and you also mentioned social media and how we're always scrolling and looking for solutions, and then we can find a lot of not so good advice. So it's definitely good to see a professional if you're having issues. I've talked about it on previous podcasts that I've had so much skin trouble, and I've tried so many things, and one of my favorite remedies, and I've said it before, is, tea tree oil. I've started using that on my face and it's really helped. But everyone's skin is different. So if you're experiencing any issues, definitely reach out to professionals for help and don't be afraid to.
Right, and it's not just, I think, the danger of following something on social media or trying something that a friend tells you. It's also the thing that what might work for one person might not work for another person. So it's not like you can take someone else's skincare routine and say, oh, well, they have amazing skin. I'll do exactly that. It doesn't always work like that because we're all different. We have different skin types, we have different concerns, we have different sensitivities, and what works for one person might not work for another person. So it's really important to talk to someone who's actually trained and knows what they're doing to make sure that you're using the right products for your skin type and your concerns.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that because that is so important to acknowledge. Not everything that works for somebody else is going to work for you and vice versa. And one thing that I just thought of when you were saying that is some products they seem like they're counterintuitive, like they're the opposite of what you want. And some people might be surprised by that, right? Why would I put oil on my skin if I have oily skin? But that's something you've said, right? That oil can actually be good for oily skin.
Absolutely. A lot of times people think, oh, I have oily skin. I need to get rid of all the oil. I need to use harsh cleansers that strip all the oil. And that actually makes the problem worse. So your skin tries to compensate for the lack of oil by overproducing oil. So then you end up with more oily skin. And a lot of times people don't realize this, but your skin actually has a natural barrier to protect itself from the environment. And when you strip away that barrier, it actually causes inflammation, which can cause breakouts. So if you're someone with oily skin, you don't necessarily need to be using all these harsh products. You just need to be using the right ones. So that's why I'm really careful to say, okay, you have oily skin. This is the type of cleanser you should be using. These are the products you should be using. And then you have to have a whole regimen, right? You can't just cleanse your skin and then not put anything on it, right? You can't just cleanse and then put nothing on it. So you want to make sure you're still hydrating your skin. You're still putting on a serum and a moisturizer, but you're using products that are specifically formulated for your skin type. Because the same thing with, it's kind of like if you have dry skin, you wouldn't put something, drying on your skin. You would put something that is hydrating and moisturizing. It's the same thing with oily skin. You don't want to use something that's going to strip the oils because your skin will fight back and produce more oil, which will make the problem worse.
Yeah, it's like finding that delicate balance and treating your skin with kindness, really.
Absolutely. So a few weeks ago, I was talking to the wife of one of our clients and she said, she was asking me how I get clients and I was like, I try to get other creators on the podcast because I know that the episodes are going to be well listened to because there's people like us that enjoy hearing about the process and all the good things that come with it, the good and the bad, the ugly. And she was like, I don't even like to read. And I was like, well, if you ever get tired of reading, you should definitely listen to podcasts because it's basically just people having a conversation, talking about how they got to where they're at. So we'll get started with my first question. Let's see, and the first question is, what inspired you to write this book and what were your main inspirations and influences for writing this memoir?
So I started this book. The inspiration for it was a solo show that I did about 10 years ago now, and it was sort of about the process of surviving the death of my brother. And so the whole show takes place from the time we met up until about 3 months after he died. And so I wrote that script and performed that show, and I never thought of writing a book. But then about 15 years after that, I was writing this book and I started getting a lot of inspiration from people that would reach out to me. And they were just random people that I would come in contact with or whatever, and we would talk about things. We'd get a little deeper into the conversation and then the person would just open up to me. And it was just really, the reaction was really amazing. And I started thinking, if I could just get people to talk about it and be honest about their pain and their struggles, then maybe I can make a difference. And I'm doing this in memory of my brother. So that was the biggest inspiration.
Nice, I love that. I love that. And especially it's a personal story. So you just wanted to, share your own experience and how you cope with everything.
And also to the guy that I was working with, she had a brother that died of cancer too. And that was just the most intense emotion that I've ever felt in my life. And I feel like, my cousin was the first time I was touched by death, and then my dad had his heart attack and was fine. He's healthy now. And then there was a long period where I didn't lose anybody until my brother died. And I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, my heart is literally broken. And I thought like, this is the thing. This is what happens when you're heartbroken. And I feel like there's this idea that if you're heartbroken, you're just gonna go in a room and cry all the time. But actually, if it's hard to sit in a room and cry all the time. Like, you can do it for a while. But the reality is like life moves on. And so I feel like that was one of the things that really inspired me, was to write this book so that people could understand that grief doesn't, it doesn't necessarily define you. You can get through it and you can still be a better person because of it.
Absolutely. And I've heard many people say that going through grief has changed them in positive ways as well as negative ways. Like they have a different outlook on life or they appreciate life more. Is that something you've experienced?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely feel like when you lose someone, you just realize how short life can be. And so I try to live life to the fullest, just every day. And I think that I had always had that kind of perspective, but it was really, highlighted when I lost my brother.
Yeah. And, one of the other things that you mentioned was, writing songs and writing poems. And you also mentioned that you're an amateur artist as well. What do you like to do when you're not working? How do you like to kind of relax and chill?
I'm a homebody. I like to be home. I like to hang out with my dog and my husband and my child. I like to paint. I like to garden. I like to read. I love to bake. I love to cook. I'm very much an introvert. I like to, I could spend a whole weekend without seeing a human being and be totally happy. And people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, No, I love it.
I know, and people don't get it, but I totally get it. Like, I'm a homebody too. And I always have to force myself to go out and do things. And that's not to say I don't enjoy doing things. I do enjoy doing things. I like spending time with friends and doing activities, but I also love being at home. I love being in a familiar space. I'm very introverted as well. I like to read. I like to, chill out and just be. I'm also an only child. I don't know if you know that, but I like the quiet.
Yay, so you're used to being alone, too. Yay, but it's, I don't know. And people, that's like the thing with my son. He's like, Mom, you need to go do something, but I'm like, I am doing something, and they're like, no, you're just here. It's like, no, this is my happy place. I'm good here. I like it. I know how it's going to go, and it's easier for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no shame in that at all. Like you have to take care of yourself. And I think, like you mentioned before, we're so used to being busy and go that sometimes we don't take that time to stop and reflect and just relax.
Yay, and I think what this pandemic has shown us is that a lot of people don't know how to do that, and I think it's been really, I'm not saying it's been good, but it's been good in the sense that people have had to really sit down with themselves and just think about, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I'm good at? And the beauty of the digital age is there's so much opportunity out there. You can do whatever you want now, I always say I could probably get on YouTube and learn how to build a rocket ship, but I'm just not interested in that. I'm just interested in getting people to feel good about themselves and just helping them to navigate through their tough times and maybe even giving them the tools to become a stronger person. Because I think there's a lot of that's kind of it's not on the forefront, It's like all these different marketing companies are pushing these other things on people, but at the end of the day, it's like you have to take a step back and really do a lot of inner work. And then I think that's the only way you're gonna be able to kind of help other people in your life and your own clients. And I think that's what is gonna separate me, I'm never gonna give up because I feel like there's so much that I can give back to people.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking of not giving up and having that passion for it, how do you balance taking care of your mental health and self-care, but also running a business and pursuing your passion?
That's such a good question. I'm in a very different spot in my life right now because I'm in a time of transition. My kids are older now. They're adults, they're gone. So I do have a lot more time for myself than I used to. And that's a big deal, right? When you're, we don't have as much time as we think. We have kids, especially if you have kids, cause the kids always come first, right? But for me, the biggest thing that has helped me is yoga. And I know that sounds kind of cliché, but when I was first diagnosed with cancer and, I couldn't move, I couldn't go to work, I couldn't do anything. I just sat in my room for 6 months, just feeling like crap. And when I finally started to get better and when I finally could walk and exercise again, I started taking these yoga classes and it really helped me. And so what I ended up doing, I was taking a lot of hot yoga, and I was doing it with my daughters and we would go to these classes together. And it's just the most awesome thing. And I got my certification to teach yoga, and now I teach yoga to adults, seniors, and also teens, and I absolutely love it. And it's just the best thing for me because I think the mindfulness that I talk about in my book, it's a practice that's been around for 2,000 years and it's been proven to be really effective in terms of boosting mental health. So for me, I just can't imagine doing anything else. I feel like that is my mission in life, is to help people and, just to be able to teach mindfulness and teach yoga to help people find peace and calm in their lives. So that's why I do what I do.
I think that's amazing, and honestly, like hearing your story is so inspiring. And I think it will also help a lot of people feel seen and understood, because there are a lot of people that can probably relate to what you've gone through.
Thank you so much. And I think that's been the most rewarding part is, I'm not a professional, right? I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not a doctor, but I am a woman who has been through some really rough stuff, and I've, done the work to try to get to a better place and to build a better life for myself. And so if I can help anybody else do that, I'm more than willing to do so.
Absolutely. And what are some of the things that you do to manage your mental health or to de-stress?
So the biggest thing is the mindfulness and the yoga. I love hiking. I'm a huge hiker. I love the outdoors. And so when I'm out there, it's a very spiritual experience for me. It's just like a grounding, and there's something about it that's very primal and spiritual for me. So I think that's really important, to take the time to just kind of be still in nature and be present. And I can't always do that, especially when it's like a crazy busy week. But I try to get outside at least once a day, even if it's just a walk, even if it's just a little walk around my neighborhood, because I need that to sort of keep my sanity, so to speak.
Yeah. It's so important to have that routine and those moments to just kind of disconnect and get out of your head and, into your body and in the present moment. I think that's really important for mental health, as you said.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity you've given here today.
No problem. It's been great.
Yay, loved it.
Well, this has been track 2571 of 2825. I hope you all enjoyed. This is Rick Ross, signing off.